Check. Quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, can hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay. Welcome at the buzzers. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing well, doing well. Welcome to all of our buzzer beaters. How you doing today, Coach?
Uh, kind of bored, believe it or not. But rallies are boring. But altogether, I traded well and lost a little bit of money. So,
Good stuff.
how about
Losing,
yourself?
losing, losing well counts. I had a good day today. Had a good day. Traded the Russell, which I don't normally trade, but it presented some decent opportunities in the equities. Took a gold long last night. Traded well. I needed a day like today. It's about consistency. Good day overall. And not any of the crazy volatility that we've been seeing in the market. So nice to just have a kind of a normal trading day. Well, hopefully everybody had a good day in the chat as well. Welcome to At the Buzz, our market recap. If this is your first time here, the goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. I'm Coach Jay. I've been a top step performance coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the past 12 years, 13 years, and in the futures markets for the past six. And that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep for 2 years now. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share some experiences, some knowledge, and help you become a better trader.
Coach. Thank you for that. Shout out to Bink in the chat. Had my best day ever. Up 20R. That is an amazing day. Amazing
Wow.
day. I do know we have Tesla earnings coming out, so we are on the watch for those as soon as we get those numbers. Actually, they're already out. Adjusted earnings per share. Let's switch over to the Tesla chart really quick. Trading views a little bit late on these, but go down to a shorter time frame. Let's look at Tesla. Adjusted earnings per share, 27 cents. Estimate was 43 cents, so that's a miss. Revenues 19.34 billion. Estimate was 21.37 billion. Gross
Oof.
margin, yeah, not good. Gross margin 16.3%. Estimate was 16.1%. Operating income 399 million. Estimate was 1.13 billion. Free cash flow, 664 million. Estimate was 1.08 billion. We'll revisit our 2025 guidance in our Q2 update. Sufficient liquidity to fund our product roadmap. Rate of growth will depend on a variety of factors from Tesla. We can see. Why are you laughing, Coach? What are we laughing at?
The flair for the obvious, perhaps.
Yeah,
The variables. There's a lot of variables.
right. Yeah. It depends. Give you the Dakota
Mm.
answer. It depends. So we see the knee jerk reaction in Tesla spiked up to 250 there, trading at 238 right now, pretty much where we closed. Let's look at a higher time frame. Tesla has been getting beat up. It is down over 55% from the highs, over 50% from the highs, right about 51% from the
For
high.
the year, really.
Yeah, pretty much for the year since we started 2025. Uh, Not looking great. Not looking great, especially with big misses on all of their expectations. From there, we'll see, of course, what happens tomorrow. And why are we covering Tesla? Because we know it's heavily weighted in the equity markets that we trade, so it's going to have an effect depending on how you know the market responds to their earnings. So knee jerk
Uh,
reaction, of course, there's less volume that can trade right now. Get this initial reaction. Of course, they're going to have their earnings call a little bit later and give some guidance for the rest of the year. And then tomorrow, when the New York session opens up again, we'll get to see how most of the volume that gets to trade Tesla is going to respond here. Uh, Anything you got on that, Coach?
Um, well, it seems that the market expected disappointing
Yeah.
news.
Yep.
It's really not doing much. Um, so, it's no secret that Tesla is struggling. I noticed on that daily, it's kind of a head and shoulders top here. Um, It needs to get some kind of technically, it's got to get above the 20-day moving average on the daily, and I don't. It's dragging Nasdaq down. It appears. Yeah, that doesn't look too healthy um, overall. I don't see it
It's not.
changing anytime soon. Yeah, right shoulder, longer left shoulder, under the 200-day moving average. The 20s crossed under. Um, huh, Sell
It's
call
heavy.
spreads. It's heavy.
There we go. Sell call spreads. Yeah, we will see how the market responds to this low of the.
Look at the volume has really come off hard.
Yeah,
So the
it has.
selling has subsided a bit. Um,
We kind of seen that in the equities as well, right? We've seen that in the Nasdaq since we had the the April 9th. It's okay to buy. We're delaying tariffs. Volume has kind of come off a little bit. We're still in that range in Tesla as well, right? We've marked out this candle in all of the equity markets. Uh, Below 220s, this gets really ugly. Now we're talking about lows that we haven't seen in a little while, going back a couple of years here. I was listening to something yesterday, and they were saying, can Tesla get back to $100 a share? Be another
100.
50%. Yeah, be another 50% from where we are right now. But that would be pretty
Well, yeah.
ugly.
Well, I don't. I'm not in prediction. It's not
Me
something
either.
I would look to own. Um, and on the way I see things.
Right.
Um,
All right, but let's we trade futures here. So let's get back to the futures markets over there to the S&P chart. Real quick, we'll go over the quote board. 35 different markets we can trade with top step accounts. Today, to the downside, we had platinum down 1.1%, the Swiss franc down 1.37%, and corn futures down 1.43% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. To the upside today, we had the Russell up 2.74%, the Dow up 2.81%, and micro Bitcoin up 4.55% for our biggest percentage mover to the upside. Bitcoin said, "Don't worry, guys, I got this." While everything else is kind of chopping around. Uh, to talk about our big four, we had crude oil up 1.84%, S&P up 2.57%, gold down 0.95% after making new all-time highs. Uh, Very interesting marking gold. We already talked about the Nasdaq uh, up 2.47%. I have an S&P chart up here, Coach. I'm gonna
the daily.
go out to a daily. What are we looking at here?
No, we're still like you said. We're still inside the candle. Um, it's still under the 20-day moving average. Um, it, it- light volume, finding some balance. But maybe the low is in. I don't know. Um, but I don't see. I mean, there's not big volume, so there's hasn't big commitment. There was rumors that there's going to be some talks with China. Um, Treasury Secretary Besant is supposed to have some kind of news conference tomorrow. Um, enough to get shorts to cover, which started last night, early and often. You look at that chart, and this was up what 2%.
Doesn't look like it.
So the classic short covering rally or bear market rally. Um,
Percent moves used to mean something. Now those are just corrections.
it truly is part of the volatility. Um, so let's start at the half hour. See, it was interesting last night in the first half an hour after yesterday's break. And early and often, um, we've talked before. Look at that 20 bar moving average and VWAP hugging each other all the way up, finding support. So definitely there was buying by a larger entity or lack of selling. I can't really tell. I know this selling today was tough. um, I did catch that early by getting out of shorts. I felt good. But interesting, we got to the 200 bar moving average, closed above it, violently broke, and came right back. So balance is coming here. Can it turn it? It's to be determined. But for the day, that was some good buy side. Um, when we say buy side, is it short covering? Is it coming from options land? Um, this is a kind of action it seems to me. But overall, some really good opportunities.
Tesla numbers are out. We did talk about them about 5 minutes ago. They pretty much missed on everything. Earnings per share, revenue, uh, operating income, pretty much misses across the board. We saw the knee jerk reaction in Tesla. Quick 3 minute chart. We saw the knee jerk reaction kind of spiked up to 250s, trading back where we closed right now. I think the conference call and then how the market opens up tomorrow. We'll know a lot more about how that's going to affect price. But again, pretty much misses across the board. Switch back over to the S&P. Like you said, coach, we're in balance. I think what if I was, a longer time frame buyer, and someone told me that last week might have been a good time to buy. At least we're holding that range, right? Depending on where I bought that, we would be, still technically in the profit. I think we still need to get above this 20-day moving average. It's trending lower, and we talked about this earlier in the week. As this 20 moving average starts to trend lower and now starts to get into this zone, that Wednesday candle, is this like a spring? Is it just coiling for a big move, or does this 20 moving average continue to push us lower? It's been the downtrend the entire time. Let's go down to a shorter time frame. I'm going to switch this over to regular trading hour charts, and this is something I've been having a lot more uh,
Success.
a a lot more success and a lot more interest in doing. Hogan and I talked about this during the opening call yesterday, but for whatever reason, it's a little bit easier to see, especially if you're only trading the regular trading hour session. The game plan today was, if Hogan and I talked about this in the opening call, if we can get above yesterday's regular trading hour high, this is a buy. And I marked that out here. The opening range, so we saw that huge sell-off that we had yesterday, and we talked about how this was just an aggressive move to the downside, really no buyers all day yesterday until the close. Uh, so the game plan for today was if we can get above this high, it's a buy, and we can see it. Once we closed above that, coach, we came back, checked it really quick, and that was the low for the day, at that point, even on the retest later on in the session. So buyers took control. We closed the weekly gap. We did open this week with a gap down. We and this was a gap down in the extended trading hours. So we've closed that. I think that's kind of out of the way. And now the way I'm looking at this, and with your 200 moving average, coach, we're still trending lower, and we closed under it on the 30 minute. So do we see more pressure to the downside here?
Well, we'll see in the first half an hour is the way I look at it.
Yep.
I like that I've been doing that myself, removing the night. Um,
Clean.
it's clean. We had that early. It's interesting. We had early selling in the first 3 minutes, which would make sense, seeing the overnight inventory was higher. Um, but we held that low. We left the range early. VWAP left right after it, and away we went. Um, that was a great opening range breakout.
Yeah.
Um,
Really.
and you know what?
Hey, coach.
We did have that spike of buying. I thought
We're
we
looking
would
at
get a
right here.
J trade. Yeah, but it took a long time to break that. Um,
Man, did it. I think, yeah, this is the trade. So I'll talk about this trade in the Russell and why I traded the Russell today instead of the S&P or Nasdaq. But yeah, I was looking for that exact same thing, Coach, where we had this volume spike. I was looking for the close below it, like we talk about all the time, and we did get it eventually. It just took an hour.
yeah, that was the kind of day it was. That's why I get the feeling, this is short covering some option play in there. They hit volatility a little bit, a lack of big interest. But yeah, it took an hour. I watched that. I'm like, I did take that. It was 2 to 1 on the 3 minute. Um, and then look what it did. Went right back to that high of the gap from yesterday to the tick. Well, it hit there 3 times. Um, and then back up. Um, so it was a good day for both sides. I was only, you know, I was looking to buy it and or sell it, and that's a rare thing for me. Um, Overall, not convincing bottom type action, but um, that
Trade both
rumor that
sides.
came out early really
What
really
was that
shook
rumor, Coach? What was that? That it
that
was a deal between the
Bacentis
U.S. and China.
they've and it was a rumor of some kind of tweet that Besant was is supposed to have a news conference, and the rumor is that they've agreed for terms for negotiation. Keyword terms, um, for
Not an actual,
negotiation, not yeah.
not
It's
confirmed.
kinda like a divorce divorce proceeding.
Right.
Okay, we've agreed we're going to talk and not hate each other. Um, we'll see how that goes.
For sure. I do want to pull up the Russell really quick. I did trade the Russell today, and there's opportunity in a bunch of different markets. Uh, when was it? Time were we doing that call? Fuck, can't remember. Kind of all blends together, chat. But
Does
we were looking for a
does.
close below high volume before we took the trade. And it just happened a little bit earlier in the Russell. We can see I marked out these high volume candles here. There's one up at the high here. We got to close below it. That gave us that momentum to the downside. And then even a little bit later, we got to close below this one for a decent trade as well. So, and really nice two-sided trade. All of the profits that I took for the New York session were to the short side for the most part. And I think even though we had a Dakota and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. When you look at a shorter time frame and it's giving you long signals, because pretty much the entire day was an upside move, right? In some of the equity markets, we were up almost 3%. Um, but the higher time frame trend is to the downside. These shorts, even though counter trend for the daytime, felt a little bit more comfortable taking. But again, you have to be patient with it, right? We talked about earlier, Coach. Bear market rallies are some of the strongest moves ever. So I don't just want to blind short this just because the market's up too high. Uh, as we saw it last Wednesday, the market could shoot up 12% if it wanted to. Uh, but once we get a technical setup, it's a lot easier to take that short, even though it is counter trend.
Well, it's when we talk about a defined plan to take that short.
Yep.
Um, I like to get if it's just based on price, uh, you know, okay. But if you can get price and volume and time together,
Oh yeah, got
then
something.
you got something. Um, at least the way I trade. But the volume wasn't that great today. That's why I'm like,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. I mean, if we look at the daily, we had below average volume. Looking at the Russell, volume average on the daily is normally 285,000. We had 229,000 today. On the Nasdaq, let's take a look. Okay, so below average for pretty much all of the equity markets. Is there news later on in the week that the market might be waiting for? We got a bunch of Fed speakers tomorrow. S&P manufacturing PMI, services PMI numbers tomorrow. Jobless claims every Thursday. Durable goods. Don't really see Michigan sentiment on Friday, which has been the mover.
Yeah,
That
that
has
thing
been the
can.
mover.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is in Michigan, but that sentiment is really moving the markets,
Yes, it
um,
is.
and it's usually pretty, I mean, violent. So, but overall, and this isn't really news. This market is teetering on every tariff um, comment by
100%.
the administration.
I think even
So,
last night there was a comment or a tweet or something about potential deal with Vietnam and tariffs. And here's that volume spike right here. Last night, this 6:48 Central Time, huge spike of volume. Nasdaq rallied almost 100 points in 3 minutes, and even that, we can see the market respected that volume for the rest of the day. Uh, so again, some of these volume anomalies can help. It's kind of whatever the news is, the market's going to react to something. Uh, I don't even try to keep up with the headlines because there's so many of them. But the volume's going to tell the story, and then my job is to kind of frame my trades around that. Speaking of which, we got a question here from Great Filibuster, Coach Jay or Paul. Paul, first salute to both of you. When you begin trading a new market, how do you guys analyze volume for it before you are comfortable executing trades? Good question. You want to start with that one, Coach?
no, I'm going to hand that off to you because you're the volume master.
Awesome stuff. So what I'm going to look for, the setups, Filibuster, this is a great question. The setups are the same, right? So with any market, pulled up the Swiss franc here, uh, I can always find a high volume candle, anchor VWAP to it, and see how the market responds from there. I can do that with any chart, right? So what I'm going to do, and you brought up a good point here. I'll start with the daily to see how that market has been trading. If we look at the Swiss franc, similar to the equity markets as well, last week we had some really decent volume. So I'm looking at this and saying, okay, if volume sustains like this on a daily, then the likelihood of follow through for these moves for day trades is higher. When volume starts to decrease on a daily, we can see the market start to range. We're kind of building a flag up here. So whatever market I'm trading, I'm going to start with the daily volume and see whether or not it has the potential to be over the average or below the average. If it's below the average, I'm not looking for follow through. If it's above it, then same uh, volume analysis applies for every trade that we take. But it's a really good question. Start on the daily. Anything you want to add to that, Coach?
Um, yeah, one of the other things is to look on the opening. And that's the opening. In currencies would be the 5 o'clock opening because it's open all. There is really no close in currencies, but start there to see, that should be a good idea of what the average volume is. Um, and I would study it for a good solid week or two before you start entering it. Do it in your practice account, but with that, use VWAP. Um, absolutely, positively. As coaches said, look for volume spikes. Um, Anchor VWAP to volume spikes. Um, but biggest thing, the difference in equities versus commodities or currencies, which are trading all the time, is that the equity volume comes in on a New York Open.
Same time all the time.
Yeah, versus crude or gold, it can come in at any time. Be aware of that. Get an idea of whatever market you're in, um, where the volume traditionally comes in and observe, use some of the skills that you've garnered from this, observe using it, and find how it fits into your trading.
Speaking of gold, why don't we go over to gold? Market that made a new all-time high today. Uh, Man, there's so much to talk about in this market. It's kind of insane. Um, I so much to talk about here. All right, market that's been uptrending. We don't even need to go to the daily coach, but we'll take a look at it because we do have that topping pattern. We talked about maybe the 3 days down in an uptrend. This looks like a decent start to that. Uh, why don't we look at the daily coach? What are we looking at here?
Well, look at that big wick off the all-time highs. Finished back inside the body of the candle previous, lower on the day. Can be expected.
Yep.
But this was I'm not even close to calling a high here, but a
No,
temper, like you said, it could be a couple days of selling. Let's look at the action on the half hour,
coach.
and
You
we
know
are
what,
getting yeah.
sir? Yeah, we are getting extended. When I look at this in hindsight, I don't know that I expected anything else to happen in gold the way that this does. We've seen this market continue to make all-time highs and pull back, but when I think it did this at 2,500 when we were looking earlier last year. Um, when it and I think it was this spike right here actually, which this is adjusted for the futures contracts, but I think this price was 2,500 when we traded it. When it makes new all-time highs at these kind of psych number levels and whole number levels, we get this exact reaction. We were talking about uh maybe it was this one.
that,
I don't remember, but
yeah, that
gold
looks like, yeah.
that looks like it, right? That it does this. You want to go down to a shorter time frame?
Yeah, let's look how it started last night, the first half an hour.
Now got that marked out there and attach a view up to that.
All right.
What are we looking at?
Um, no, so I actually preempted that VWAP leaving the range last night.
Okay.
Got stopped out on a micro, very reasonable. I'm glad it was a micro, one micro. Um, but I didn't, I was patient, came back, we closed above it again, and VWAP, and I took it. I did get my 2 to 1, ended up making a couple shekels on the night. But it was the same pattern we've seen out of Asia. Um,
Oh,
explodes to all-time highs, and then it was interesting this time we got a um just look at that volume. It just died on all-time highs.
yes, it did.
Um, I mean, look at that. That was big buying, and just a tiny little volume off the all-time highs. That is a red flag. And what do I mean? If these are all-time highs, it's almost, and I won't say it, it's almost a blow off. Like
Yeah.
that's the last buyer. Like not as dramatic as copper, but when that happens, just think if I know Peter Stottlemyre told me the best way to identify a change in trend is when you can identify the last buyer or seller. That kind of action right there is rather dramatic. Right at those highs, that tiny volume. Then we had buying again. You got nowhere relatively, and man, what that was a huge move.
So have to give a shout out to Hogue. We talked about this during the opening call. You're not using the top step daily levels, either the indicator or the website that gets pinned every day in the YouTube chat every single day. Or all of our coaches are putting out levels. Hogue's weekly kickoff level 3510. The high of the day today
30.
3509.90.
Oh, he missed it.
He missed it. Hogue.
Great job, Hogue.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Within a tick of it, what would have sucked is if you set a limit order at that price and you don't get filled. Uh, that would hurt. But what a great call, right? High of the market, all-time high right below that level. Um, and then a really nice sell-off after the fact. Another two-sided trade. I did take the long as well last night during slow markets. One thing, and we've talked about this, Coach, 24/7 market, right? Gold trades all the time. We were actually just talking about, what is the official open for some of these markets. Equities, we see the volume come in around the same time all the time. Gold, especially with all of the buying that we've been seeing in Asia recently, we look at it here. Sometimes that volume comes in right on Globex, excuse me, but the Asia session opens up at 8 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. Central, and that's where we started to see that kind of kick up of volume. Uh, and you got back into the trade, and this is the same trade we both took. Uh, this was the long I took in slow markets, where we had VWAP starting that or to leave that Asia range to the upside. Uh, it didn't exactly leave it, but okay, preempting along in a market that's been rallying for eternity. Uh,
Well, if you're willing to take the risk,
yep,
and the risk,
100%.
um, that micro, I don't know who can afford to trade the 100-ounce gold.
Expensive.
So let's say traditionally a fund, you don't risk more than 1% on any one trade. Well, in the 100-ounce gold on $100,000 um, account,
Yep.
well, $1,000 and is like quick. It's like a half an hour. What's the average true range in a half hour right now?
Uh, Anywhere from 12 to 20.
Okay, so it's $1,000 to $2,000 in a half hour. So um, this is a really good market to trade micros. I think but it
Much
truly is.
opportunity in it.
It's got bang for its buck. Um, but what was really interesting, now that you bring that up with the 30, look what happened when it got under VWAP
That's when the volume came in.
and the
And
20 bar moving average.
yep.
Wow.
Yeah, Hogan and I were talking about this, right? Where we were actually in you during the opening call, we took the opening range short. And all of us are I think I talked about this a little bit maybe last week, but that second day, if we're gonna get the two down days or three down days in an uptrend, that second day, if we see that downside momentum, feels a little bit more comfortable to short. And why am I saying that? So we had this down day in gold. But look at the wick on the bottom of it. So yes, this day closed lower than it opened, but we traded down to these prices and buyers bought it right back up. Um, we do get these overextended kind of reversals, and this looks like that, right? Where bigger wick at the upper end of the candle. If we see some selling pressure coming into this market early, then this has the potential to be that. Um, so this trade, we were in the short from the opening range. Uh, Really nice trade, and we managed it like this is a market that is in an uptrend. Now, was there really a reason to close it? I mean, we had a 3 to 1. Coach, you say 2 to 1s on a day trade are pretty good. Uh, that was a really clean short. 1 minute opening range, volume left the range very early and convincingly, and just kind of kept selling for the rest of the session. It's a beautiful opening range trade.
Yeah, I tell you, those rumors about something happening on the tariff front. Once the same thing happened in the currencies, um, and I think a rumor alone wouldn't move those markets like that. So something seems to be baking in the oven. Um, because that was right around just before that rumor came out. Um, And if there was nothing to it, I don't think we'd get this dramatic a movement across different markets. Um, but I don't know. But what you did do there was identify some selling, pick the spot, leaned on it. We don't use that term too much anymore, but kind of leaning on the sell side. Um, and in a pit environment, if there was a large order to sell, um, the market makers would lean on it. So what am I saying? So if there was 1,000 to sell at 10, then they might sell. Each one might sell 50 at 9, and because if they're quick enough, or if they knew the broker, they could get out um, with limited loss. But if they were right, they could push it. And that's the kind of strategy, right? That just reminds me when I see that. Um, oh, great trade. Now, you said, should we have held one?
Hindsight
I'm
talking.
firmly in the belief is don't change it. What you want, we talk about predefine your risk, accept it or don't make the trade. When you start veering from that,
You start
um,
you start trying to capture every tick.
yes, you do. And then, okay, then now you get back in because it broke and then it curls around back and then you get out and you start chopping yourself. Any trade should have a defined risk, entry, exit. So you can get a routine and consistency. If it
Say,
was 3 to 1,
go
you
ahead,
know
coach.
what? A 3 to 1 on a 1 minute is, I like that idea, or a 4 to 1 because it's a shorter time frame.
Complain about it. It was a $1,400 trade. We took it with one mini in 20 minutes. I'll take it. We'll take it. What I will say is one of the targets that we had, and I know Hogue was talking about this as well. We don't talk about it often here, but 2-day VWAP, right? So we had VWAP from the prior session, from yesterday's session, looking at that as a potential target, and we can see, you know, I don't hate the exit here because we can see the kind of consolidation at this point. Um, what I do want to say is if you take this trade and your management decision says take it off at this 2-day VWAP, and then you see the market sell off another 4%, if you don't get back in it, this is where we have to live with the decisions that we make as a trader, coach. And I have to remind myself of that all the time. If I get out here, because my system told me to get out there, and the market sells off 20% without me, um, I can't count the money that I would have made. And I think a lot of times we get caught in that. And then we try to make it up, but we make it up when the markets look like this, right? We like trading absolute dog shit markets because we should have been in this. And then the markets chop around and I'm throwing around size trying to make up for profits that weren't mine. So if you make a
It's
management decision that way, live with it.
it's a slippery slope.
Yep.
It's also random. So, coaches are doing mindset classes this week, and that's one of the keys of a mindset. You have to execute a trading plan, accept the risk, and accept where your exit, and don't go, well, I could have made more and get back in. That's not part of the plan. So if it does, that wasn't part of your decision when you got in. Um, you might get away with it a couple times, but overall, you can get whipsawed. Now, in that, if you like that trade, let's say you did 2 units of risk. You take one, you get 2 to 1, and you take the other one, and play with house money. Put a stop in it unchanged on the day. Now, that decision going up front, and you're playing for this longer extension. Okay, But once you get that in, you can't go back and go, "Oh, I'm gonna get back in," because that isn't a plan. That's an emotional decision.
Selling it right here.
Possibly could be. I mean, yeah.
All right. Anything else on gold, Coach? What do we got to look forward to tomorrow, or do we want to move on to crude oil?
Mm, Well, we kind of went through it all. Let's tonight look at today's low.
Uh,
Let's
33.79.10.
keep that one close because that could be if we do get a 3-day reversal correction, it could be violent. Um, so I'm going to mark that. I'm going to see it. I'm going to tag a VWAP if we close under it on a half hour. But that's about it for me on the gold.
For that, Coach. JLM JL McCauley, great comment. 65 likes. Come on, guys. Help us out. If you can, hit that like button. Us favor. Only if you like what you're hearing, though. Helps you along your trading journey. Let's look at crude oil here, Coach. What are we looking at on the daily?
Well, what is the high of today? The 20-day moving average, a little wick there. Very tight ranges here. I don't see much opportunity. I looked at it today and I would look at the volume back down to basically just commercial players that have to trade it. Still in a downtrend, but as we've said this how many times, we're in a long term range. Um, Nothing much else to say. On the daily, let's look what happened last night on the half hour.
Look, half hour. I mean, that point was a pretty nice trade.
Boy, that kind of looked like the equities um, at the beginning. So there was a decent trade there on the half hour, but it gave you some heat
Yep.
or some annoyance, maybe not heat, but held that range. Oh, like perfectly. Um,
And okay, so question here. Do you ever just set limit orders and walk away? Reason I ask, Dakota and I doing slow markets last night. The markets look like this. I said, if the market gets back to 62.80, I want to buy it. Why 62.80? VWAP was above it. 62.80 was right around the high of that range. Risk was going to be the 8 ticks to make a new low in the day. But I didn't get into that trade because I wasn't watching it. You ever set limit orders, Coach?
um, no, I don't. I used to. I only put an order if I want in. My personally, I'm either going to get stopped in or I'm going to enter on a market order and then put my stop in and my objective. Um, but what happens? Like you said, you forget about it.
Yeah. Completely forgot.
There's no guarantee, and unless you have a stop, all of a sudden you get this, you forget about it. And perhaps you like to sleep, um, and then you wake up and now it's a dollar and a half lower. I I've gotten stupid trades like that, so I'm really alert to um, every order I put in. I've gotten in 40 years, I've got caught on orders I forgot about. So if you did, you definitely have to get some kind of alert.
Listen, it would have been a great trade. And I always think about it every once in a while. It's just like, and I see Dakota do it with his slow markets. Finds a level and says, hey, if it gets here, I want to be in regardless of how we get there. And you already defined the risk, right? So I would have been risking about $150 on this trade. It would have played out really well. I think it was. I mean, it was like a 10-1 at some point, but it's just not the way I execute trades. So I don't even know if it's worth thinking about it.
Well, can you enter an order with a bracket
Yeah, you
on a
definitely can. So
resting order if you
yeah,
get
so
filled?
you can. So
Yeah, you can.
in
Let's go
TopStep
through that.
X in the risk settings, right? You can go into the risk settings and say, position risk. So if that's the only trade that I'm going to take, and I know I want to, you guys can see what I have, what symbols I have blocked here. Cannot trade Nasdaq on this account. But I could say, hey, you know what? I only want to risk $200, and I don't want to set a profit target, and save that. And then when this order gets filled, it's automatically going to put the stop at $200 away.
All
So I
right.
think what I would have to do in this case is I know, I measure the opening range, that 30-minute opening range. I know my entry is going to be at 62.84. So I want to give it a little bit of room, not exactly at the low. So about 20 ticks, set that to 200. Then I would have been tagged in. My stop would have automatically been at 200. And then we had a hell of a trade there. I'll think about it. I'll do it in a practice account maybe if I identify some levels. But it's every once in a while, you get one of these and you're just like, how can I get in this if I'm not watching it all the time? Um, and we had a 7-1 trade at the highs. Not saying I would have taken the whole move, but by the time I got to the charts this morning, we had about a 3-1. So just something to think about.
All right. I like that idea. Now that with the resting order that you can protect yourself with a stop. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, for sure. All right. Any other markets we want to discuss? We had a request for the 30-year bonds. Anything else you want to discuss on your scouting report?
Well, here, the yen and the euro currency went right back down to the 200 bar moving average
On the
on the
30?
30. Yep. Um, Now we see that 20 and the 50 are above it. So it's this could be a big mover either way. I'm playing the upside. I'm watching tonight. Watch the first half an hour, attach a VWAP. But I think that you know, if it goes, it could have a sharp rally. Euro currency looks exactly the same. Those are on my radar. Um, First of all, I have those longs on a swing trade. Um, so I might have to get out. Um, Either way, what's the trend?
Trend is to the up. I mean,
Yeah.
on a daily, it's to the upside.
So we had a counter trend break. Let's see how it worked from the first hour, half an hour last night. So there was a decent rally last night. Look at that. And this market is getting a little squirrely. VWAP breakout to the downside.
Looks like gold.
Yeah,
They
it
started
does.
selling it. They started selling it at the same time.
And when that was out of London, maybe they got the first word of a possible uh, agreement, whatever that text was. But currencies were another one. Um, it just started trending down all day. Um, Back to the 200 bar moving average, but it's a little oversold here. Um, from a half hour perspective, if for whatever reason we get some decent buying, we can go right back up. Um, Still, there's that gap from Sunday night, and we're not even close.
We dip
Yeah,
into that real quick and find some buyers.
yeah, but that to me is the one I'm looking to. I either get out of my longs, but if for a day trade, if we can get that structure we look for, I'm definitely going to buy them both. That's
Stuff.
my scouting report.
Here for that, coach. We got a couple of requests for markets here, and then Paul H had a question, so we'll get through that, and then we'll get out of here. 30-year bonds, looking at it on a daily, lows of the range. I would be looking at, again, this April 9th candle in all of these markets that we're trading, closed under the 50%. If this can, just from a technical perspective, if this continues to sell, uh, when do we take out this low?
Well, it's interesting. Let's look at we had all the corrections in all those markets, that the counter correction to the tariff news. We didn't get that in bonds. Look at that. That was a very small range. Um, wow. Um, that doesn't look healthy to me. I was talked about this yesterday. Well, it's still in that. I think we really need some kind of buying. I don't. I think a lot of bigger players are stepping aside. Um, with all the uncertainty, talk of firing the Fed chairman, tariffs, um, large volatility, and all of a sudden we do this. Um, that the thing right now, bonds are a tough trade. I would stay away from them right now.
In the British pound, we got a British pound request. Let's look at a daily. Looks very similar to the other currencies. If I zoom out here and we're talking about, higher time frames, maybe, we are in different circumstances now, but we are at, if I'm looking at a daily, some higher time frame supply up here, resistance, whatever you want to call it, right? We're going back to 2024 highs. We kind of traded up there and rejected right away. Uh, Different circumstances again. So could these markets continue to rally? But we need to find some more convinced buyers here to
Yeah,
continue making new all-time highs. Go ahead, coach.
look at when you say convinced buying, look at the volume for
Right.
last week.
Yeah, it's kind
Mm,
of gross.
Now, this could be a J trade on a day time frame. Um, frame today's
Yeah.
candle out.
Yep.
My thing is, if you break that high in the next couple days, you could see a huge run. This could be just profit, most likely profit taking, or lack of follow through buying.
Yep.
Um, Interesting. Um, I
This
still like.
volume. Go ahead, coach.
I still want to play the long side. Go ahead with your volume.
No, just that volume pattern there would just be a little bit concerning to the upside. With us making new highs of the year on lower volume that way. Uh, Weaker and weaker hands the higher we get, right? And
Good point.
maybe some shorts are still in here. Uh, it looks good, but again, we just need to convince some buyers to come back in and buy it, and maybe and that's exactly what pullbacks are, right? Huh. We talk about not wanting to swim in front of the shark. Sometimes the market just needs to pull back to get market participants interested again. Like, no, I bought it already. I already have enough. Um, and maybe I'm in profit and I'm thinking about taking my profits. But if you can give me some better prices, yeah, I might be inclined to buy it a little bit more. Um, and just where some of these currencies are, I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen. Could they just continue to rally 100%? Um, but just like gold gets a little bit extended, you would want bigger players, bigger volume to come in and buy it, and we got to give them good prices to buy, or we might fall back a little bit.
Yeah, we
Any
haven't covered the the British pound in a long time.
these currencies are moving.
Yes, they are.
All these currencies are moving. We got anything else you want to talk about, Coach? I'm gonna pull
Yeah,
up something on our side really quick. Go ahead.
go ahead. I don't. I was going to throw something out there, but if you have something,
Yeah, no, go ahead. I gotta shut up real quick. So
I haven't
you know,
looked at copper in a long time. Wow, there was a classic selling That's why that was in the back of that selling exhaustion on the bottom. We'll talk about that on a daily, whether
We
that
will.
was a 3 minute, half hour, or a daily. That's why I hadn't come back. I forgot to, but I saw that. Look at that. That's right out of the textbook. So
Yep.
that being a J trade, I'm gonna let you have this one.
Uh, we got volume exhaustion again. Markets are fractal. You hear people say, patterns can play out on whatever time frame. If this was a 3-minute chart, we'd be talking about close outside of this, trade to the upside. I'm going to anchor a VWAP to that. Hasn't left the range yet, and we are kind of getting up to where we saw some rejection before. Is there more room in this trade before a pullback? Potentially, I'd be looking at this high right at 5 even for a target. I mean, why didn't I swing trade this? I'm gonna look at
Uh,
platinum. Really, did platinum do the same thing?
no,
Not
did it?
exactly. High volume at the lows. Yeah, it did. But you see this kind of pullback here where we're coming into this range where the sell off started.
Yeah.
This is what I'm looking at in copper as well, right? Where we might have gotten that pull up move. And there's almost too much opportunity, coach.
Um, we say that all the time. There is plenty of opportunity. It's whether we can get a routine and a trading plan that we can find opportunity anywhere. Just on a quick, and I'll end this today with this. I started at the Mid America Commodity Exchange. It's no longer, um, the Board of Trade bought it a long time ago. But part of the Mid America Commodity Exchange was the birthplace of mini contracts. They had smaller versions of gold, crude, bonds, S&P. Um, and the great traders that came out of them, there was a lot of them, because it was all one floor that you could literally take steps and go from crude oil to the bonds to the soybeans, literally. Like you'd be standing there and it would be silent, and all of a sudden you hear noise, and you'd see good traders just take a few steps and start trading what was busy. That was their opportunity. This
Yep.
is one of the
Where the
things.
volume is.
Yeah. So when we talk about that just harkens me back. Um, if you have a good trading plan, if you know how to manage risk, you're looking for opportunity. Um, and you just said it. There's plenty of opportunity.
Yep. 100%. Markets need volume to move, regardless of the market. You could be, in a secondhand sneaker market, right? People exclusive sneakers drop and people buy them all up. Need volume to move those markets too. And then sometimes they do
Yes, you
like
do.
a general release and they're just like, oh, these are exclusive. And it's like, no, they're not. I can go to Walmart and buy those. And then prices drop. But speaking of prices dropping or moving in general, let's pull up our limits. Markets are settling down a little bit, but I really have a hard time believing that we are in the clear from any of these days being 5% up or down. Um, Headline at any given moment is going to move these markets in a direction, and there is a big day coming. Um, I don't think we just get out of this slowly. It's like, you know, guns are drawn. We're not just going to walk away and be like, hey, everything's cool. Right there's a move coming out of this, whether it be to the upside or the downside. Be aware of these limits. Remember, the 5% up limits only are going to apply to overnight trading. Once the New York session starts, then the limits only apply to the downside. 7% is the circuit breaker. So with Topstep XFAs and live accounts out at 5% to the downside, combines are free to trade. Just keep these on your charts just in case. Uh, I got nothing else. I'm gonna go prepare for our 150K subscriber meeting. If I'm talking to you, any of you there, we'll talk in a little bit. Uh, Trade well, manage your risk. See you on
Always, coach. And you have a good evening. And if you get a chance, tune in. I'm sure it'll be good.
Think I might have been talking on mute for like the last 30 seconds, but
No, you
we'll
were good.
call it. I was good.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.
All right. Good night.